Insane. Absolutely insane. If you look back a year ago, basically to this date, March Madness is canceled. It's not even a thought of. COVID hits, everything is just going bad. If you thought back then and look to now that we have an official Final Four set and it is going to be played and it's going to be electric, lots of great teams in here, it's just insane. I am so thankful. I bet you guys are just as thankful that we have a Final Four this year. If you are thankful for this Final Four, hit the like button down below. And if you love college content, whether that be college football or college basketball, do yourself a favor and hit that sub button down below. We just hit 5,000. So for all of you guys who have been around with us before 5,000, thank you guys so much. And if you aren't subscribed, you're more than welcome. Join us for some amazing sports content because we love sports on this channel. That's all we talk about. And we're just trying to build a community of a bunch of sports fans. But let's talk about this Final Four because everything leading up to this date where we finally have a Final Four predicted and everything. You look at some of the biggest games that we had in March Madness. The Oral Roberts run, unbelievable there. You have some massive upsets in... Who was it? Abilene Christian beating Texas. You have Ohio beating Virginia. All across the board, you can just look at so many great stories that especially all these teams really have a great story that they had to go through COVID and everything they've had to go through. Getting to this point, another great story. Although sadly they fell short of the Final Four, the Oregon State Beavers, after an insane comeback to come back being down, 17 to the Houston Cougars, coming back and able to tie that game, but fell up just short of being in this Final Four game. But I'm excited to bring you guys my picks and predictions for these games because I've done this with every other single round. And of course, I'm going to do it for the national championship. But that's what we're deciding right now. Who is going to be in that national championship game? What else can I say? But let's get into it. So let's start off with the first game of Houston versus Baylor. Now, what I like about Houston coming into this game, again, I've mentioned it in other videos. I do not like the Houston Cougars. Even though I don't like them, I can still see the talent in this team, and I still see why they're in the Final Four. This is just a very sound defensive team, constantly putting pressure on the ball, constantly getting stops. I think that is where Houston finds themselves most successful. Also, with the offensive rebounding. You look at last game, 19 offensive rebounds. I think that's basically where they beat Oregon State because Oregon State was barely able to get anything on the glass because you just have Houston clobbering them there. They're just picking every single ball off. Every single missed shot Houston had, they just had a second chance. And I think second point chances were an amazing source of points for this Houston Cougars team to be able to be successful in that game against Oregon State. I think Houston's just going to have to score. Going up against a team in Baylor who loves to score, you're going to need a big game from guys like Sasser. You're going to need a big game from guys like Grimes. All those guys, they're going to have big games scoring-wise because Baylor's going to put up a lot of points in this game. I guarantee you that. So let's take a look at this Baylor Bears team and them against Arkansas because Arkansas did have this game really, really, really close towards the end of the game. Now, Baylor was able to pull away. I think what Baylor has going for them is just the ability to score. I think it's as simple as that. This is a team that will put the ball in the hoop. They put up 81 points last game against Arkansas. You have Masio Teague going off, putting up 22 points in that game, but he wasn't even the most impressive to me. The most impressive player on that Baylor team to me was Mitchell. It just seemed every single time he got the ball in his hands, he was making a play. Whether that be him scoring himself, he had 14 points in that game, or whether him passing the ball off to one of his teammates, he had 6 assists in that game. But it just seemed like he was so comfortable and so easy with that ball that he just blew by anyone. He had himself a game against Arkansas, and I think he was a key factor in this Baylor team getting to the point where they are now. Scoring is key for Baylor. That's always what they do. But I think defense is where Baylor could get better. You look at how many rebounds they had last game. Offensive glass, they had 11 rebounds. Defensive, they had 18. Arkansas out-rebounded them on the defensive glass. So that's something that you definitely want to work on. But I just think limiting the amount of points that Houston could score, because you know Houston's not an insanely good scoring team, but you know they're a good defensive team. So we kind of have a really nice matchup here is one team's strength is on defense and one team's strength is on offense. You look at this from a Football Reference. I look back to that Super Bowl Carolina Panthers versus Denver Broncos. I think it was the top scoring offense and the best defense in the NFL. Obviously, that turned out to be a terrible game, so hopefully we have a better game here. But who am I going to take in this one, Baylor or Houston? I'm not a huge fan of either of these teams, but just watching how both of these teams have played and the consistency and the level of confidence that both these teams have been able to go through. Which team I feel like I'm way more confident in this game, I'm going to be taking the Baylor Bears. You look, Rutgers had a really, really close call against, who was it? Rutgers. Houston has had kind of the easiest road to the Final Four in a while. Like, you look at the seeds that they played a 12, they played a 11, they played a 10, and they played a 15 to get to the Final Four. You have not gone up against a 1. Yes, those teams that did make it to play on against Houston did deserve to be there, but playing a 1 seed and playing a 12 seed are way, 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 way different things. And I think that Houston just hasn't faced that level of talent yet in March. And guess this game's going to be in April now, which is just crazy to think about. But it's going to be a really tough game for Houston to win. So I am going to take the Baylor Bears for my first game of the Final Four. So let's talk about this Gonzaga-UCLA Final Four game, which, man, oh man, the run that UCLA has had. Can we just acknowledge that? From being a first 4 team going all the way to the Final Four, huge accomplishment from them. I kind of felt like something like this was going to happen, where either Michigan State or UCLA was just going to have that big run, because it just did not feel right to have a team, 2 teams of that caliber being in the first 4 and them to just get kicked out of the first round. So was it a shock to me, really? I think it was a surprise, but I wouldn't say it was a shocker of the tournament, because you kind of had that in the back of your mind of UCLA is a team that if you saw they were in the Final Four before the season even started, you wouldn't be surprised at all. I think Juzang, the first half, especially against this Michigan team, just blew by and had an amazing game for him. He really just took over. Another guy, Hawk, is just rebounding. He's been a huge guy on the glass this whole, 2 weeks for UCLA this whole time. I like the momentum. I like the heat and momentum that this UCLA team is bringing into this game against Gonzaga. There's just one problem. Gonzaga is really, really, really good, especially in UCLA, struggling to score that many points. They only put up 27 points in the first half against Michigan. If you put up 27 points against Gonzaga in the first half, I think the game's written as a loss at halftime, unless you hold Gonzaga to 0 points, because this Gonzaga team just scores, and they ran out of the gate hot, really, really hot against USC. If this team put the pedal to the metal the whole game, I think Gonzaga could have scored 100 points easily against USC. I don't even think that's a question. They laid off a bit in the second half, but if this team continues to play hard the whole game, I think this team puts up 100 points easily. They put up 49 points in the first half against USC. If UCLA wants a chance in this game, they're going to need to score. They're going to have to play defense, and you're going to have to score the ball. And for that reason, as much as I want to pick UCLA, because I don't want to pick Gonzaga, because I feel like UCLA is probably the team I'm going to be cheering for to win all these games, because they're the underdog, and I don't want to see any of the higher seeds win. But there's no chance I can pick against Gonzaga in this game, even though I love the run that UCLA has put together. Gonzaga is the number 1 undisputed best team in college basketball right now. There's no question about it. You look at Timmy, you look at Suggs, you look at Nembhard. Just those guys had unbelievable games, especially Timmy. Just watching him was just a mind-boggling experience for me against that USC game, because he just made everything look so easy. He'd just pull up from the foul line easily, just a little jump shot, hit that easily. Good in the post game. Just this guy was able to do everything. Of course, Nembhard's one of my favorite players in this tournament because he is Canadian, and Suggs too. I heard that he's like some freak athlete in football as well. This team is just full of athletes. An amazing game for Gonzaga. So I am going to take Gonzaga versus Baylor for my national championship. It's going to be a close game, that one. Of course, we're going to have to wait to see what the actual national championship is for me to make a call on that. But it is what it is. We'll wait till that moment. So thank you guys so much for tuning into this video. I appreciate it. Definitely like down below. Comment to me down below. Who's your national championship? Who do you think's going to win? Like the video, subscribe, and thank you for watching. And definitely come back next time.